Hello, everyone, and welcome to the finale of this narration series of Echo. A few things before we get started tonight. First, concerning the future of this channel, I suppose, I want to do sort of like, I don't know, I guess an interview sort of video with someone else, because I really want to talk about Echo with another person. So I would like to do that as a sort of like a bonus for the series, but if that ends up not happening, then you can consider this the finale. Second, I guess it's just kind of funny how long I've been doing this, because I started recording this series in late June, and I first uploaded it in early July, and it is almost October as I record this, and it's probably going to be November by the time I finish uploading the videos at the rate that I do. It's been kind of a long process, but I've enjoyed it. Because I really love this story, and I want to share it with other people, even my comparatively tiny audience. And also, voice acting is kind of fun, even though I'm not the best at it. I guess finally, some content warnings before we begin. This episode is going to contain strong violence, strong themes of paranoia and possession, discussions of sexual assaults, and a lot of yelling from yours truly, so be prepared for all of those. In the meantime, thank you everybody for sticking with me for this long. I appreciate it. Now then, let's begin. I can still feel the stitches in my leg, even though I pulled out the little bits of line a half hour ago. Despite living here a vast majority of my life, even I had trouble figuring out where the hell we were. As I walk, and the stinging throbs with every step, I close my eyes and realize how exhausted I really am. Running off extreme adrenaline for a day will take the wind out of you. So will multiple blows to the head and torture, apparently. I keep imagining that when I open my eyes, I'll be back in my dorm. I'll sit up from bed and Vincent will be tapping away at his laptop on the other side of the room. I'd tell him I had a fucked up dream, and he'd tell me in that too cool for school tone to blog about it. The rhythmic tapping was at first really annoying, but now it's kind of like a white noise machine. It helps me sleep for some weird reason. Maybe because it makes me feel like I'm not so alone. Chase. I inhale sharply, nearly tripping over a clump of weeds. Jenna places a precautionary arm out in front of me, before easing back when she sees I've got my balance again. You still with us? She looks me up and down, as if looking for signs that I'm turning into another Leo situation. Said Wolf is still with us, ambling along like he can't even feel that half his leg was stitched to mine less than half an hour ago. I look back to her, nodding. Yeah. Exhausted. But that's to be expected, I guess? Ordinarily, I'd love a quiet walk with you at night. Though considering the circumstances... She pauses, looking over her shoulder. Well, it could be worse. You had a guardian angel. She noticeably stiffens as I bring up the topic of what just happened. I'm trying not to think about it. None of us had gone around to check out where Brian was dragged. In fact, we made a beeline in the opposite direction. Ordinarily, the lights of the town would guide us where to go, but everything's dark, the moon our only real source of light. And even that is partially obscured. The productive thing to do is to just think ahead right now. We'll come into town along the back roads, get to the motel, and take your car. I give her an affirmative thumbs up. Micha, meanwhile, is clutching his knife tight. It reminds me of how he was with the wrench earlier, when he was worried about Leo attacking him. Now the two walk nearly side by side. Everyone but Leo is rattled, that's for sure. I can't tell if it's the supposed hysteria's fault, or just a completely rational reaction to all the shit that's happened today. Micha's usually arrogant and gruff demeanor is replaced by a more timid posture, about rubbing his neck like he can't believe he's alive. I try to think of something to say as he turns to face me. Micha, I'm sorry about Keith. Yeah. He responds simply, sucking in his lower lip for a moment between one of his fangs before speaking again. Still not sure exactly what happened, but now I have a more definitive idea. He looks ahead again, shifting the topic. I had a dream about you, you know? Oh? After we spoke. I only got a little bit of sleep, but what I did dream stuck out to me. You were holding me underwater, drowning me. A cold chill creeps along my spine. Jenna looks over, raising her brow curiously at the bat. Leo stares straight ahead, unfazed. That's weird? Why are you telling me this? Micha waves his hand, dismissing my question as he continues. You were holding me underwater, and it was fucking terrifying because I couldn't breathe. Your hands around my throat felt exactly like that noose did, the way they bristled and cut into my neck. He points to the matted fur around his throat, the pinkish, raw-rubbed flesh visible even in the dark. But, talking emotionally and shit, I started feeling thankful? Thankful that I was killing you? That's rather macabre. The bat nods, seemingly well aware of how strange this sounds. Yet, he doesn't relent, noting how exceptionally strange everything else has been lately. I'd be willing to take anything at face value at this point. Like you were freeing me. Real fucked up suicidal shit. When I was up in that noose though, I didn't want to die, so that part didn't translate. Honestly, surprised I didn't piss and shit myself. Did you guys? Jenna stares blankly at him. No. I did not, no. Leo, of course, is silent. To think, I almost left town a couple days ago. Would have never gotten caught up in this mess. Well, why did you really disappear the first time? Back in 2008? Micha fiddles with something in his pocket, taking it out and peering it over. I can't quite make out what it is. Something plastic and thick. A lot of reasons. My folks turned on me after finding out about some shit one night. Came home to find my room torn up, all my belongings outside. My mom, the cunt, wouldn't stop fucking bawling, screeched like a dying chicken at me. My dad, meanwhile, had this old police baton. Kept coming at me with it whenever I tried to come inside. Kept screaming to let me in and apologizing for every little screw-up that I could think of. None of it worked. I tried to sleep on the porch, but Dad came out and started kicking me in the back till I left. Jenna grimaces. That's awful. Leo looks back over his shoulder, slowing his pace some to match ours. I can tell he's at least half listening now, no longer as spaced out. Keith was gone, and, I didn't have anywhere else to go. It wasn't too popular, as I recall. Even with Heather, Clint, and Jeremy. They had their own problems. Should have told me. The words catch Micha by surprise, the wolf staring at him from across the shrubbery. Hey, I know we just survived a near-death experience together, but no need to be getting all retroactively sappy. We turn a small bend around a sandy embankment, some old car parts scattered in the underbrush. The moon is finally visible from behind Echo Canyon, and I can make out what Mike is carrying, Brian's cell phone. I guess he's gonna try to take that in as evidence. As he moves to push it back into his pocket, it slips and clatters against a rock beneath him. Ah, fuck. I'll get it. Leo bends down, taking hold of the phone. The screen is shattered, and a few slivers of glass fall to the ground. Damn it. The bat extends out his hand. Thanks. Leo doesn't budge, still staring at the shattered device. Then, from beyond the desert scrub and scattered car parts, a mechanical roar. Light flashes before us, and Leo holds up his paw to shield himself from the light. It takes me just a moment to realize they're headlights, and the roar is the start of an old engine. It's a van, sitting right in front of us, and it's all too familiar.
What the?
Jenna reels back, eyes wide.
That wasn't there a moment ago.
She mutters, craning her neck some to peer through the red-tinted window to see who's behind the wheel. After a moment of inspection, it's clear that there's no one inside. Jenna.
What?
Jenna, this is the van from the dream. The one I told you about?
Oh, come on.
Jenna doesn't sound incredulous to my claim, just exhausted. She crosses her arms tightly over her chest, not letting her eyes leave sight of the idling vehicle.
Okay then, what's it doing here?
I don't have an answer for her, and therefore remain silent, stepping away from the front of the vehicle in case it somehow takes off. Micha, meanwhile, looks confused. He peers around, his yellow eyes bright and shimmering in the focus of the headlights.
What the fuck? I know where we are. But we were heading into town, toward the motel. How the fuck are we here? We didn't cross the highway, did we?
I look to our east, and sure enough, there it is, the weathered asphalt of Route 65. I would have noticed if we crossed pavement. Someone would have. It's the complete opposite direction that we should be heading. Jenna gasps, seemingly realizing this a little after the rest of us. We've been here before. Leo speaks up, clutching the side of his head with a wince. You recognize it too, right? Leo still sounds half asleep, turning to face us. Though, it appears he's only speaking to Micha and I. The bat blinks.
Oh, fuck. You dreamed about this too, Chase?
I swallow and nod, clutching my clammy paws against my shirt. I think so? The dream from earlier had already begun to fade from my memory, as most dreams do. But the way I felt watching it is still very clear, and this whole scene is starting to give me some serious deja vu, or something like it. There was an albino guy. He had bright red eyes and got ran over? The van's motor continues to idle, humming as it waits.
Mine was a little different.
Micha doesn't elaborate. No, we've been here before in real life.
Implying that this is not real life?
Micha glances over at the wolf, and the two exchange a look for a moment. Jenna steps forward and tugs at the driver's side door. It opens with a quiet creak, some errant cobwebs fraying apart as the door is pulled fully open. She squints at something by the wheel, then reaches in and taps it.
Keys are in the ignition, and there's this big red glare on the dash. Maybe a check engine light?
She frowns to herself.
It looks like this thing hasn't been used in a while, sans whoever turned this on, but I'm no mechanic.
If only there were one among us now.
Leo?
She pokes her head out, raising an inquisitive brow at the wolf.
You're welcome to take a look, if you're feeling up to it.
She eyes Leo up, examining his physical condition. Her expression is a mixture of skepticism and concern. Leo begins to limp toward the van, and Micha quickly steps up beside him to keep him from tipping over. He grunts appreciatively in response, speaking up. It's probably not a check engine light.
What makes you say that?
Those didn't really exist back when this was made, before the mid-90s. Are you guys thinking we can drive this out of Echo?
I'm a little more concerned with wondering who turned this on in the first place, and how we even got here. But that's an optimistic thought, Chase.
So, maybe this is a gift horse that we're looking squarely in the mouth right now?
Doubt it.
Micha rasps, helping Leo prop himself against the driver's side door as Jenna steps aside. The light. Looks like it isn't coming from the dash. Leo clumsily grasps the steering wheel, peering closer. It's like it's being reflected off the odometer, but I don't see a direct source. How Leo can see clearly at all after repeated blows to the head may be the real question here.
That's fucking weird.
A shuffling noise comes from the back of the van, and everyone freezes. There's a raggedy fabric partition hiding everything past the front seats from view. Gingerly, Leo pulls it aside and squints into a red light illuminating his face.
Is anyone back there?
Leo doesn't immediately respond, and I can't see him well from where I'm standing. I limp my way up beside Jenna.
Leo?
She inquires again, more urgent. No, not right now. There is something back there, though.
Well, that's obvious enough.
I'm too big to squeeze between the seats. Gonna go around. Everyone takes a step back out of the now seemingly coherent Wolf's way as he exits the van.
Fucking deja vu something fierce right now.
You too? Jenna gives us both a quizzical look as Leo braces the handle of the rusted van door and gives it a yank. At first it doesn't budge, but after another hard tug, the door flies open. One door partially unhinged as it dangles to the side. There's something standing in the middle of the van on 3 spindly legs. The red light projects from something on the top, and it begins to flash on and off. A camera on a tripod? At first I think it's mine, but upon closer inspection it looks like an older model.
No fucking way!
Micha quickly backs away, nearly tripping over a prickly pear cactus in his haste.
Nope. This isn't real. Everyone pack it up.
We're being filmed?
What is this, some elaborate prank show? This is 100% not funny.
Leo says nothing, climbing up into the back of the van and turning the display monitor on the camera around. On it, a little red dot on the corner flashes on and off, in time with the illumination of the rest of the cab. The display screen itself shows us standing there at the back of the van, though the image is fuzzy, distorted. I wonder how long this has been here.
That's my camera!
Micha shouts in response, looking briefly to the rest of us before lowering his voice some.
Or, well, the high school's camera, but they were shit at keeping inventory. I ditched it after my folks kicked me out.
Okay, but what's it doing here? And why is it recording? Judging by the looks on everyone's faces, I don't think anyone has an answer to that. Leo brings a heavy paw up to his eyes, rubbing them some before peering at Micha, then the screen, then back again. Micha cants his head some at the wolf, letting out a slow exhale.
Either this is one fucked up joke, Wolf Boy, or I'm beginning to think this is the Hum's doing.
The Hum? He mentioned that before, by the motel.
Wow. Haven't heard that word in a while.
What's the Hum?
It's, hard to describe. Bad dreams, like we talked about before. Feels kinda like Vision Quest shit. Real spiritual stuff that Keith talked about a lot. Wasn't good vibes though. Bad energy only. Thing is, it only really happens when you're sleeping, and I'm wide-ass awake.
He extends his arm out to his sides for a moment before gripping the van's door, thumbing at the chipping paint.
I haven't thought about that in a while. Jeremy and Adam talked about it when I was younger, after I mentioned seeing...
The thing we just saw a half hour ago, she wants to say, but she still visibly can't quite accept that. Not yet.
You know what? I don't, but as I was saying, you can kinda tell when it's happening because it's more than just a nightmare. Your ears start buzzing. Like, one of the orchestra bands tuning up. Violins in your skull, you know?
A creeping sensation that I know exactly what he's talking about builds in my gut. You hear it too?
What? Like right now?
Leo stares for a moment before nodding. One of the bat's large ears flicks, and he turns his head from side to side.
I don't think so.
He pauses.
Maybe. Might be the engine.
He shifts his attention back to the vehicle, yanking on the van's door some.
The spooky-ass ghost van engine.
The metal frame of the van seems to rattle in response, though that might just be my imagination.
Sometimes, I'd go out into the hills and just camp out away from home, because the hum wasn't as bad there. Heather did it a bunch with me too. Though, she had her other reasons.
Jenna nods, exhaling slowly before crossing her arms over her chest.
So, I suppose then you have a theory about all this? One based in, what, Masada spiritualism? Honestly, I thought it was like radon poisoning or something. But you get the hum in a few other places around town too. I've slept all over. The rail yard, the lake, this van. They're all real hummy places. You've slept in this van before?
Despite everything that's happened, the idea that anyone would want to take a nap in this creepy thing is dubious at best for Jenna.
Well,
Micha trails off. For one usually so coarse and brazen, his seeming awkwardness right now feels out of place for him. We both have. Briefly. Leo places the flat of his palm on the bed of the cab. Flattened cardboard boxes and ratty bits of fabric that must have once been blankets or towels cover the surface. The large canine's brow furrows some, and finally he looks back up at all of us. It may just be me, but he doesn't seem as sluggish anymore. Jenna lets out an exhausted, amused noise, letting her arms flop down to her sides.
Truly? I'm not sure I see the appeal.
Leo and Micha look at each other. There's a silence. Wait.
Hold on, you're not saying...
I was so stupid.
We were both stupid.
Micha squeezes the bridge of his nose, closing his eyes as if cringing at himself.
I was such a skeevy little bitch back then. I don't know why I pushed...
No, I didn't mean for that, Micha. I meant for what happened after. You had it rough, and I didn't care. Or if I did, I didn't wanna, because of what happened at the party. I feel like an outsider looking in at some intimate conversation I don't understand. Which is a feeling I can't say I've felt when I'm around Leo. He'd always go out of his way to include me in everything. What party? What are you guys talking about?
Chase, they...
2008. The Dia de los Muertos party at the Parsons warehouse. The one where you told me you were gay. The night we got together. I blink. My parents had caught me watching gay porn that morning on the computer, and was afraid to come home to them, so I went to some party at Parsons. The night itself is kind of a blur. I remember getting in a very brief fight with a guy who dumped beer on TJ, and then waking up with Leo over me, eyes full of concern. Somehow, I ended up confiding everything to him about me being into guys. He apparently had a hunch about it, and next thing I knew, he was ushering me out of the old warehouse to walk home with him. We kissed in the rail yard by his house, and that was about the start of our relationship proper. Still, something always seemed a bit off about that party, and the way Leo was acting. I think I remember some dude trying to come up to talk to him, and Leo telling him off before insisting that I not ask about it. He seemed really serious at the time. Didn't want to ruin a good thing or something like that. I didn't get a good look at the guy he talked to, but he was carrying a camera? The wolf taps the side of the tripod with his fingertips.
Leo, you are reprehensible.
Jenna's voice is cold and curt.
Jenna? What? Shut up.
Jenna looks taken aback, but only for a split second before shaking her head in disbelief. Leo winces, clutching his wounded head, his reddish eyes flicking up to meet mine. I shouldn't have agreed to it. I was just... Jenna quickly interjects, stepping in front of me.
No, Leo, this whole week has just proven to me time and time again that you are just...
She stares, letting out a hot puff of air between her lips before spreading her arms wide.
Just perfect for Echo. You truly, truly belong here, you know that? God, how old were you then? How old was Micha? Did you even care? Fucking hell, are you about done?
The bat pivots on his heel away from the van to face Jenna, his eyebrows narrowed beneath his fangs.
Look, you don't know me. I ain't some fucking victim. Shit was my choice.
What? What was your choice?
Chase, you are an absolute idiot sometimes.
Jenna sounds very disgusted. I frown at her, wondering what the fuck I did wrong. And I abandoned you. Jenna visibly seethes.
None of this.
She points to the rusty van, that same red light flashing on and off.
Makes any sense. But all your actions completely do. You are all just so perfect for this town, thinking any of that was okay.
She throws up her hands, legs shaking with frustration. Is she including me in this? It isn't.
I'm gone. Done.
Jenna! She turns to leave, though a crackling from the front of the van brings her to a halt.
Hey,
From the console, the distorted voice I've become all too familiar with rings forth again. It's coming from the old radio, the audio crackling through dusty speakers. Jenna recognizes it instantly and begins stepping back away from the van again.
We should go. Now.
Her voice is shaky. The air itself seems fuzzy, electric. Like I'm breathing in hundreds of tiny strands of vibrating twine.
That sounded like Chase.
Hi. Leo is the only one to outright respond back, and Micha looks at him with a bewildered expression.
Don't talk to the hum.
It's Chase.
Chase is right there, dipshit.
He gestures to me, still standing gobsmacked at the back of the van. Leo slowly looks back at me, squinting at my chin and my eyes. It's me. Let's go home. He sees that it isn't my mouth moving, and his eyes widen a little more. A small line of blood runs down from a spot just behind his ear down to his jaw. I promise I won't bring it up again. Let's go home. Who gives a fuck what the others say? You know I'm right. I remember saying those exact words after Flynn blasted us for skipping Jenna's birthday party in 10th grade. I had convinced Leo to hang out with me instead. I was addicted to private time with him. I promise I won't bring it up again. We're all silent, staring at the dark cab where the noise is coming from. Except for Leo. He's looking directly at me. Leave. Why? He asks me. I'm not sure what to say. It's not me speaking, but those are my words. Everything feels hazy. Hazy and wet. Micha leans his head into the van, trying to get the wolf's attention.
Leo, Keith always said not to talk to the hum. That's what the shit is, no doubt.
The hysteria. It has a voice?
Apparently it's your fucking voice, Chase. No wonder everyone's so damn riled up about you coming back.
But why me?
Do I look like some kind of Masada wise man?
Micha grunts, fidgeting from foot to foot. Despite his demeanor, he's definitely visibly unnerved by all this.
I'm parroting shit I heard from a guy who's probably dead. For a while, when I was younger, I thought I heard Keith's voice too, telling me the shit I wanted to hear, but shit that wasn't good for me. So, I got the fuck out of town.
Jenna throws her hands up, squeezing the pendant on her necklace.
I can't handle this. I'm going to do what the spooky van wants and leave.
It's not the van. A voice in my head speaks, softly, like a whisper from right behind my ear. It's a masculine voice, but not my own. An older man, with kind of an old Western accent. Familiar. Glancing back, there's no one there. Without thinking, I speak. It's not the van.
And how do you know that?
I don't know, I admit. There's a long silence, and Leo's tail curls inward. He's biting the inside of his cheek, thinking hard. Finally, he looks me in the eyes again. It's me. That thing. It follows me. I thought it was you, but it's not you. You're different now. He gesticulates in my direction.
Leo, I love...
Please. Be quiet for a sec, eh? Leo interrupts the otherworldly voice like he's shushing a small child. Now he's looking at me, but his gaze seems to shift toward the horizon. The 1,000-yard stare. Chase, you all left and it was never the same. So I tried to cope. I remember all the stuff you used to say to me. Even the naggy shit. All your banter. Hell, I imagine every day at work that you're there with me, talking to me while I'm fixing cars. I pretend I'm teaching you about the basics, like changing oil or replacing headlights. I know it's not riveting stuff, but in my head, you love me and I love you. There's just some distance, that's all. Then I drive home, listening to whatever is on the radio, and I imagine you reacting to it, groaning every time the word truck is mentioned in a country song, or making some snide-ass remark about the political ads. A little smile curves up along his jowls, though it diminishes as quickly as it forms. That little drop of blood running down the fur of his cheek finally splatters on the cabin floor beneath him. When I get home, I go online and, there's this pulling in my chest. Like a dread, you know? I click on the social media shit and it's you. The real you. And you're different. You're wearing new shirts, hanging with new friends, drinking fancy college beers, growing terrible facial hair. I touch my goatee briefly. Micha gives me a sidelong glance. And it feels like I'm losing you all over again. So I just avoid it. I pretend. I pretend that we still drink together on the patio as the sun goes down on Saturdays. I pretend that you're there beside me at home, watching me play my games. And I pretend at night that pillow I've got my arms wrapped around is you, making your little irk noises you do when I ruffle your head fur or squeeze you. Leo plants his rump against the side of the cabin, sliding down to a sitting position as he clutches his head. And then one day, you started talking back. At first, it was quiet. In the back of my head. Not even really noticeable. And over time, it just got more real, yeah? Soon I was looking in mirrors and seeing you standing there. A reflection in a window or a pool of water. Sometimes, I swear you could even touch me. But it wasn't you. Not the real you. It was the you I wanted you to be. This perfect, subservient thing. But it didn't make me happier. It was just a dream. A dream that kept blurring between, what was real and what wasn't. And so I wanted to see you. The real you. To, I don't know, get a grip? Fix me? But it just made things worse when you didn't give a shit. When I would smile and you would look away, and you'd take every chance to hang with others instead of me. His eyes flick briefly toward Jenna before trailing back down to the space between his feet, the wolf breathing slowly. These past few days, it's been unlike anything I've ever felt before. I'd forget what was real and what wasn't, and it'd drive me up the walls, you know? So, sorry. He rubs his face. Fuck. The wolf goes still, the gravity of his words rendering everyone silent. Even the radio. Jenna, who seems to be constantly wavering between lingering and noping the fuck out of here, glances back over her shoulder. Her grievances with Leo and Micha are apparently lessened in the face of continued paranormal onslaught.
So this thing that we're seeing is manifested by the hum. Is some sort of tulpa?
Tulpa? The name sounds familiar, like something Carl mentioned to me in passing.
In layman, a more advanced version of an imaginary friend.
The Fennec frowns deeply, thinking.
The process of induction, visualization, thought form, and other mental forcing can stimulate these sorts of psychosomatic happenings. Generally, you see it with people who say they talk to Jesus, or other religious icons that encourage prayer and meditation upon idols.
You're saying I'm like some kind of worshipped idol? Jenna sighs as Leo slinks down a little.
Sure. That still doesn't explain why we can see and hear this thing. Honestly, it's more likely we're enduring some sort of collective traumatic hallucination. But right now, I'm just spitballing here to rationalize this.
She swirls her paw in the direction of the van. A person that others can see and interact with, born from a dream. We watch the radio, though it doesn't chime in.
I think it's gone.
Another silence. Finally, Micha speaks up.
Jesus fuck, Leo. Can't you just print out Chase's yearbook picture and tape it to a fleshlight like a normal person?
Leo looks to Micha, his tired, wounded face slipping into a grin before he starts to chuckle. It's the first bit of proper laughter I've heard from him in days, even if it is bittersweet. Micha, I'm sorry.
Dude, for real, it's fine.
Micha watches Leo with some wariness in his golden eyes, crossing his tattooed arms over his chest. Nah.
What do you mean, nah?
Nah. We may have just been messing around, but you had shit rough at home. Everyone knew it. And I just didn't want to think about it, yeah? You just disappeared one day and that was that. But you were small. Didn't have nobody to turn to. I should have been there for you. Micha scuffs his foot against the dirt, looking a mixture of frazzled and embarrassed at the conversation taking place.
We didn't have that kind of relationship. Not like you and Chase had.
Relationship? The bat looks at me, quickly clarifying.
It wasn't really a relationship or nothing. That was a bad word to use. Just two kids who both knew they liked dudes and experimenting.
There's a twisting sensation in my chest as I look at both of them, then imagining them in the van. Right before what was essentially the most romantic night of my life. The day I felt most loved and special out of any.
With a $700 camera and a 3-year age difference.
Micha ignores Jenna.
Judging by your expression, I'm guessing he never told you. I don't blame him.
Leo scoots himself to the back of the van, hanging his legs off the end as he looks to me. And I should have. I just didn't want to lose you, you know? He's looking at me now. And yet, he lost you anyway. Oh. That's all I can manage to say. Leo turns his attention back to Micha. I'm no replacement for Keith, but I should have helped you get back on your feet. Introduce you to the group. Dios, you and Chase would have gotten along after a while. Didn't you want to be a journalism major? Jenna, despite the apologetic tone of Leo, definitely doesn't seem eager to stick around for this conversation.
Man, that was a lifetime ago.
We could have taken your fare less in, shown you how society works. Come on, you probably don't even know how to do your taxes. Micha clicks his tongue against the roof of his mouth, kind of like how Leo does.
Fuck taxes. Government ain't getting shit. Anyway.
He clears his still raspy throat, wincing as he swallows.
If you want to get ahead in life, you can't rely on others. Gotta get it for yourself.
He passes a glance toward Jenna for a moment. We did. I chime in, still trying to wrap my head around that revelation from earlier. Micha looks like he's about to snap back with something biting, but just waves it off with a flap of his hand.
Anyway, if you wanted forgiveness, you got it. Let's just put some distance between us and this hotspot, okay?
Please. Micha grunts once, beginning to walk off behind Jenna. After a moment, he slows some, looking back to Leo.
Glad you, finally woke up, though.
Jenna rubs her face into the pads of her paws. She's shaken, nerves frazzled. Micha and Leo, too. Though I just feel numb. All this insane shit is happening around me and it's like a dream. Something not even real. There's a layer of separation between what I perceive and what's really occurring in front of me. Watching a playback of memories projected right onto my own eyes. It's not the first time I've felt like this, even outside of this supposed hysteria, but it's never been so strong. But as I glance behind me, the van's still there. Real as ever. Micha and the newly sobered Leo walk on ahead. Maybe it's like a minefield, you know? Projecting thoughts and shit for everyone to see?
Yeah, just think real hard about Carl. We can take his spooky fucking doppel home with us instead. Save us some trouble.
After a while, I can't make out what they're saying. They're talking with a more serious tone, their voices lowered. I'm not sure if I even want to know what they're discussing now. As we approach the edge of the old highway, my eyes settle upon a small mound of dirt with a carefully placed stone on the center. I'd walked down this stretch of Route 65 about a dozen times growing up, and I've seen this before, but was never curious enough to investigate. There's something about it that's drawing my attention, and then I realize why. The dream from last night. The grave. That's the spot. I stop, the others still walking ahead. They're following the road now back to town. Or at least until we get to the railroad crossing, and then we can follow that. I look back to the mound of dirt and am compelled to approach it. Without really thinking, I'm on my knees. Dig. What? Just do it. Next thing I know, I'm scooping the tips of my paws through the packed soil, digging up dirt and tossing the clumps aside. I don't know why I'm doing this. I close my eyes, trying to snap out of it. It doesn't help, and soon there's this musty smell in the air, like the inside of an old attic. I've managed to dig about a foot down into the earth so far, and the smell is only growing stronger. At about 2 feet down, something solid touches my fingertips. I keep going, dusting off dirt around whatever it is. The surface is curved and cracked in places, like pottery. Even before I get all the dirt off, I have a hunch of what it is. 2 empty sockets stare up at me, and I stare back. Hello. A voice plays in my head, much more profound than I've ever heard it before. After all this time, to end up here. The voice almost sounds like it sighs, then goes silent. Are you the guy in the grave? I ask the voice, which rings more clearly with each passing word. The way he sounds, it's like he's right here, despite the unnatural cadence. The voice in my head? I whisper to the skull, compelled to touch it. Any skin or fur has long since rotted away, and the head itself is a yellowed ivory color. His clothes, from what are visible, are in tatters, but the remnants of a button-up shirt and suspenders can still be seen. The voice doesn't respond, so I ask another question. Who are you? A tumbleweed rolls by along the road in front of me, the others getting further and further away. Instead of responding, I feel myself begin to dig further down, scooping out a few more mounds of dirt until something leather and small can be seen. A hardy little wallet with a snake emblem pressed into the center. Flipping it open, several business cards and dollar bills practically dissolve in the exposed air, though there is a plastic ID card in the back. It's a driver's license, clearly decades old, with the faded ink of several stamps covering most of it. Where text can be seen is in that old-timey typewriter font. I wipe my thumb across the surface, wiping away the dirt and grime. Samuel Ayers. Date of birth, 1890. There's a little picture of an elderly, pale feline with stark, reddish-looking eyes that remind me slightly of Leo's. He looks haggard and sad. Ancient, really. A relic of another time. The man from my dreams. I should be terrified, but again, I still feel disconnected. A passive viewer who can only sometimes speak without any control. Now you know how I feel. I managed to swallow, peering into those sockets like they were looking back at me. I've never met a ghost before, I remark, quietly. Not a ghost. Then what are you? Another drawn-out silence, though this time I waited out. Maybe something like that thing on the radio in the van. Just older and changed now. It's gone, but I'm still here, clinging to you like a lifeboat in open water. We've been together for some time. Didn't see one another for a while, but you came back. They always come back. Together? I don't... I trail off, trying to wrap my head around what he means and what's really happening. I lean back some, feeling less resistance on my movements. I feel weird, like I'm not really here. You've felt this way for a while now. It always happens like this, over time. Here it's just a little stronger. With me. My gaze is pulled down to the license in my grip. Again, I read the name. Samuel Ayers. He goes quiet for a moment, then speaks up again. With him. His voice falters, a strange conveyance of emotion in his otherwise stilted, monotone presentation. I speak up again. There's something wrong with me. It's like I'm not doing things on my own anymore. You're not. I'm with you. You are indecisive by nature. What? How? I choose. That doesn't make any sense. Why are we connected? How do I make this all go away? He says nothing, but I can hear him rumbling, stirring. At least 15 seconds pass before said stirring turns into words. You came back to find the truth, or that's what you told yourself. Yet you've known it all along. You just bury it, over and over again. Each failing, uncomfortable moment or horror. You can't face anything. You're just like him. The man with the hat that's always too tight. Brains splattered on fresh grass, pine needles, and a whimpering child. I don't... You are weak. You are pathetic. There's a pause, and again his tone shifts, a deviation from his uniform speaking pattern. His voice sounds softer, distant, like an echo of something said far away. Be safe, kid. Before I have time to comprehend anything, I hear footsteps upon the asphalt in front of me.
Chase, what are you still doing back here? What are you looking at?
Jenna steps closer, peering into the little hole I had dug. She thins her lips.
Oh.
What's going on? Leo's booming voice calls out from down the highway, the wolf looking back at us. Jenna just stares at the desiccated remains for a moment before calling back.
Chase dug up an old corpse! God damn it, Chase!
Jenna sighs, resting her paws on her knees and letting her head hang down.
What he said.
She looks up after a moment, spying the card in my hand.
Is that an ID?
Yeah. Samuel Ayers is the name. I think he's the one who got hit by the van.
Oh.
She looks off to the side.
Great.
Huh?
What, Chase?
She responds, exasperated. Don't you care? Someone died here. I think he matters somehow. To me.
Chase.
Her eyes drift to the skull cropping out of the mound of dirt.
God, I've passed this so many times just out here walking, never knowing there was a person buried here. How old is the ID card?
I squint at some of the smudged text. 70s, I think. At least that's when it was last renewed. Jenna frowns.
Poor guy.
She crouches down beside me, taking the license for a moment.
You should hold on to this, so that we can give it to the proper authorities for them to handle. I wonder if anyone out there is still looking for him, or even remembers who he is.
Her eyes flick over the little card, settling on the picture.
He looks kind of familiar, too.
She hands me back the ID, then extends out her arm to help me up. With a knot in my stomach, I take her hand and use her weight to rise up without putting too much strain on my injured leg. I think he might be in my head. The words leave my mouth more casually than I meant, and Jenna does a little double take toward me before letting go.
Well, tell him I said hi. We'll deal with him in a bit.
She's just like Cynthia sometimes. He says, you're just like Cynthia sometimes. Jenna stares at me, then the grave, then back to me. She brings 2 fingers to her temple, massaging it.
Chase, please don't listen to the voices in your head right now.
She responds curtly as Micha arrives behind her, Leo hobbling at his side. You okay, Otter? I look at him for a long moment and answer honestly. I don't know. Same.
Let's just get going, okay? Chase, you can keep leaning on me if it hurts to walk.
I give her a grateful nod as I rest an arm around her shoulder. Thanks. As we head off, Micha lingers a little behind us, staring into the shallow grave. He steps off the road, pushing in the dirt I'd removed back into the hole with a few hasty swipes of his foot. Before anyone can ask what he's doing, he catches back up with us, staring straight ahead. We've been walking for what feels like ages, the moon still high in the sky and the taste of water in the air. Maybe it will rain. After we got switched around and ended up on the wrong side of the highway, we realized we were much closer to Heather's than the motel. So, to Tetanus Alley we go. I keep playing back that conversation earlier in my head, the voice that seemingly activated when I found the skeleton. I've heard it 1,000 times before, but I always had just assumed it was me, my subconscious. A particularly bitter side of myself that would chime in every now and then to add insult to injury. Really, lives out in the boonies, doesn't she? Leo winces some as he walks, no longer using Micha as a walking crutch.
Yeah, I don't get out here often. Be wary, though. Apparently she's got a gun, so no threatening movements or nothing if we see her.
Clint's got one too. Should've swung back around to my place so that I could grab my piece.
Leo, for God's sake, we are not getting in a firefight tonight.
Bet my aim's better than 2 junkies with pop guns.
Oh yes, the heavily concussed hobbled wolf definitely has the advantage over Clint and Heather, both of which spend a considerable portion of their free time shooting random objects in a trailer park. I know, because I grew up listening to it. She ain't lying, at least for Clint, and he ain't no fan of you. Should probably let me do the talking. Didn't you betray them? I think I might be the better person for this. The neutral party, so to speak. Yeah, but I know them. I can sort the shit out quick like.
Jeremy's her brother, and Clint is Jeremy's best friend. And presumably, Heather listens to both of them. She's not really been involved in any of the drama so far, so I trust her to get this taken care of. I look down at Jenna, whom I'm currently leaning against. She can put a degree to work.
Oh God, don't put it like that. For the last time, I don't study any of that interpersonal communication business that shrinks handle. I lean more toward neuroscience anyway. So Rich Goat is in great hands then. Nice.
Micha responds tersely, Jenna giving him quite the side-eye. She still seems pretty disgusted with him and Leo for the van revelations. And the further we get away from it, I'm starting to feel myself get more and more ill at the thought. The camera. Jesus. Leo had asked if we ever wanted to film anything before when we were together, but I always said no. I shut my eyes, trying not to think about it. Focus. Just gotta find Carl. A long, curvy gravel road leads halfway up the quarter-mile loop that is Jasmine Street. At this section, several mobile homes are dotted along its length, though most are empty and dilapidated. They generally serve as squatting grounds for seasonal transients. A little pink house stands out amongst the rest, with a big utility vehicle parked out front.
Never actually been inside before. We should be careful. The front door is open.
What? Jenna points, and sure enough, the double doors leading into the house are cracked open. The doors themselves are strangely ornate, painted like a drawbridge with big knockers on both sides. A creeping sense of dread begins to dawn upon me. Hunker down. Let's get ready. And so we do. Well, as much as I'm willing to do with my leg still feeling like it's on fire. I can even see Leo wincing as he crouches down in front of some shrubbery.
You guys all good for this?
Yeah, it's just like I got bit by 20 fire ants.
There's probably something we can wrap your legs up with inside.
And the tips of your fingers, Batty.
Batty?
Said Bat gives Leo an incredulous look, before letting out a little harumph and facing forward again. I squint past the two of them through the brush, and I can make out the text and logo on the utility vehicle. It says, the Reclamation Bureau, with a little river insignia surrounded by the national flag. Jenna squats down beside me, her ear twitching. She quickly peers over her shoulder, staring hard at something behind us. I follow her gaze, though all I see is the vast stretch of desert between us and Lake Emma. Micha looks too, letting out a little gasp.
Who the fuck?
What? I don't see anything.
Shush.
Jenna places her paw up to my lips. I frown, peering past her fingers into the dark. Finally, I can hear something, twig snapping, quick footsteps, and maybe some panting? There's a rumbling behind it too that sounds almost mechanical in nature. My first thought is the van from earlier. Whoever turned it on, had they gotten it running and followed us out here? The silhouette of a figure emerges through the sagebrush, its motions frantic. Eventually, I can see its eyes, which are familiar bright blue. Teach! Leo quickly runs up to catch the flailing feline, only to be met with slashing claws that push him away. The wolf seethes audibly, stepping back. TJ, stop! It's us! He whispers sternly, trying to snap him out of whatever's come over him. TJ keeps looking over his shoulder, panicked. It's coming! It won't stop following me! TJ shouts and Micha visibly flinches.
Kid, shut the fuck up.
He's hysterical.
Yeah, so hit him or something.
Leo blinks, frowning deeply as he tries to wrangle the cat by the scruff of his neck with little success. What? I am not going to punch TJ.
Oh, so you get to beat up my friends and it's totally fine.
Micha's grumbling trails off into a disgruntled mumble as TJ yowls. He keeps trying to scramble away, kicking up clouds of dust everywhere. The cat looks horrible. Goat head brambles stuck in his fur, tumbleweed sticks in his shirt, his pants ripped at the seams. It looks like he's been out running in the wilds for a while. Jenna squeezes my shoulder some before moving from my side, approaching the increasingly feral-looking lynx.
TJ, it's me, Jenna.
She speaks softly, a calming tone to her voice.
I'm here with Leo, Chase, and our new friend Micha. You're okay.
That rumbling sound is getting closer. Soon, I can see headlights gleaming across the desert. It's a pickup truck, and it's not even on the roads. The driver just careening through the desert straight toward us. TJ's eyes bulge, head swiveling toward the sound even as Leo wrestles him to his knees.
Oh no! Oh no, 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 no! It's the thing! It was the thing from...
He breathes in sharply, looking at me for a moment.
The monster!
The monster? Jenna repeats, peering at the approaching truck.
Fuck, is that Jeremy and Clint?
No. She lets out a relieved sigh. I recognize that busted grill. The vehicle begins to slow, until it rolls into idle and parks about 10 meters from where we're squatting. A towering figure emerges from the inside, a rifle in his hands.
Fucking hell.
Flynn blinks at us all, then shifts his attention back to TJ. The lynx is staring at him as if he is just the horror of all horrors, jaw agape in silent scream as he writhes in Leo's grasp. Excuse me for a little bit.
Flynn!
Jenna growls.
I guess we're all just hollering now.
Micha briefly glances over her shoulder toward the house. No movement inside.
What did you do? What did I do? I sure as shit would like to know. One minute we're searching for Carl, the next he's just staring at me with that crazed look in his eyes. He started crying, snotting all over the place. I have been chasing this little shit for fuck knows how long, where the whole town has fallen apart. Lost him for a bit, so I went home and grabbed my repeater.
Flynn holds up his rifle, and I can see it's pretty damn old-timey looking. Like the sort you see in old westerns, with metal that looks more brassy than iron. He shifts his gaze from TJ to the rest of us, then frowns.
The fuck you guys been up to?
No one immediately speaks. To be fair, I'm not quite sure how to answer either. It would take hours to summarize everything that's happened since Flynn and TJ were around. Surviving. I rubbed the back of my neck. But we found Carl.
You did?
Flynn perks right up, the visible exhaustion he'd worn like a second skin seeming to dissolve right off him.
Where? Where is he?
I swallow, realizing how dry my throat is as I try to make the right words.
Duke and my brother have him.
Jenna interjects.
We were briefly, and unwillfully, detained at Brian's. Carl was there, but Jeremy and Duke were told to take him to Heather's place. Hence...
She gestures toward the pink house.
Why we are here. You are fucking shitting me.
We are not. Flynn is wrought speechless, bringing his fingers to his forehead and gritting his teeth.
This is so fucking nuts.
He brandishes his repeater across his chest. pulling back the lever and checking the chamber with an increasing look of trepidation on his face.
Let's not waste any more time then.
He slams the lever back into place, stepping forward. TJ flinches, though the lynx looks less terrified and more confused now.
Whoa there, Mayor's boy. Jeremy and Duke might be packing, and we know for sure Heather is.
So slow your roll, yeah? Hearing this information, it looks like roll slowing is the exact opposite of what Flynn wants to do, but he does stop. Glancing back, he seems like he's about to snap at Leo, but spots his bloody leg and the swelling around his muzzle and forehead. His expression softens. Guys? Our attention shifts to the lynx cradled in Leo's arms, who's peering at us through bloodshot eyes. Tej? Leo loosens his grip on him, and the lynx props himself up on one knee, taking stock of his surroundings as if for the first time. Hello? Jenna exchanges a look with the rest of us before speaking.
Welcome back to reality. That hum's nasty stuff, ain't it, kid?
Hum? He clutches his ears. I don't know what you're talking about. Leo snaps his fingers a few times in front of TJ's face before waving his paw in front of him. TJ stares, flinching with a delayed reaction. Not too sure he's fully back with us just yet. Flynn swipes his hand through the air, grimacing, and I take a drink.
Okay, enough of this. Wolf boy, what's the plan?
I blink, realizing how naturally everyone defers to Leo when the going gets rough, just like when we were kids. I don't see Jeremy or Duke's ride out front, so I assume they ain't here. We should take a look around inside, but we need to be careful.
They could be back any minute.
Yeah. We all begin to follow in line behind Leo, all of us pretty damn well aware our element of surprise is long gone. We're about to reach the open door when I notice that Jenna isn't with us. I glance back over my shoulder and see her staring into the underbrush back by the truck. Everyone else starts filing in before I get a chance to get anyone's attention, so I wait outside for her. I wave, trying to get her attention. Sure enough, she finally looks my way and quickly scurries away over to me. It's amazing how silent she can be, even while running. It's one of those enviable fox traits she has. It's tough to think of any aspect of foxes that's a hindrance, actually. What's up? I look at her, trying to keep my voice down. She peers at me with a scrutinizing expression, as if I had said something rather offensive and she's waiting for me to talk my way out of it. Jenna?
Oh, it's nothing. Nothing real.
Huh? She walks in, not offering any elaboration.
Come on.
I sigh, following her. Jenna, I can't say I could have ever expected the interior of Heather's home to look like this, even having known her most of my life. The first thing that hits me is the smell. It reminds me of one of those fancy candle and soap stores in the mall, but with the sort of dusty, mildewy stank that lingers in my sinuses. Very floral overall. Potpourri, I think it's called? The next thing I notice is the decor. Much like the exterior, there definitely appears to be some kind of fantasy, castle-like theming going on here. However, the person going for said theme is certainly no interior designer. Bubbly wallpaper, cheap knickknacks, and blurry, printed JPEG pictures of fairy tale characters coat the walls. Pink pennant banners dangle from the ceiling, and crushed glitter can be seen reflecting from within the weaving of the carpet. It's like a child's birthday party took place here, but judging from the faded appearance, it's been like this for a while. As I glance to my left, I notice an entire wall has been knocked down, the structural framing inadequately hidden by flower-coated curtains. Beyond said curtains is a large chair, and a long red rug leading up to it. It takes me a moment to realize that it's supposed to be some kind of throne, lit harshly by the bright white fluorescent lights. Despite the attempted fanciful presentation, cluttered floors hinder whatever intended effect of opulence they were trying to go for. I can see old VHS tapes, candy wrappers, CRT monitors, disposable cameras, children's toys, all scattered about. Past the throne is what I think was supposed to be the living room. But instead of chairs, there's just this mattress on the floor, which is covered in throw pillows and beach blankets. I even recognize one as having the logo of Southwest Adventures. Seeing that makes me realize how long ago it feels like all of us were at that theme park. Carefree for the most part. Flynn steps up to the knockdown wall, repeater clutched under one arm.
Guessing they didn't get a permit for this demo.
As if on cue, a gust of rolling wind hits the house, and I can practically feel it shudder. Unstable. The Gila quickly refocuses, keeping his slitted gaze down the hall for any sudden movement. Beyond that, the house is quiet for the most part, outside of an occasional dripping noise coming from somewhere I can't see. Nuts. Completely nuts. Leo mutters, shaking his head at the surroundings.
Yeah, none of us come here. Never actually been inside before. Heather's dad never lets anyone in. Now I can see why.
Leo and the rest begin moving down the hall, while Jenna steps up beside me. She has a contemplative frown upon her muzzle. It's kind of weird and familiar, in a way. That's all I can say initially, until I begin to start placing why. This place reminds me of, old thrift stores and cheesy parties I went to as a kid. I can't imagine living here.
It's not as dirty as I thought it would be.
Jenna muses, though something catches her eye in the entranceway to the kitchen. Soon, I'm following her, approaching what looks like a laminated, colored pencil drawing posted on the wall with rainbow-colored text. King and Princess's Palace. Jenna's frown deepens. On the picture, there's a large, bespectacled feline man sitting on a grand golden throne. It's quite an upgrade from the dingy orange recliner draped up in cut-up fabrics they've got out front, that's for sure. Next to him, sitting cross-legged, is what looks like a drawing of Heather. She's in a stereotypical pink princess gown, with a little tiara on her head. The two are holding hands. It's such a sentimental picture. It actually seems pretty sweet that even Heather has someone who cares about her enough as this. However, Jenna's dour expression does not relent. She quickly turns, heading down the hall with the rest of the gang. Flynn and Leo continue to take point, the Gila keeping his rifle at the ready. Still no sign of anyone, though. Part of me wonders how wise it is to be carrying a gun with all this mind-altering hysteria business going on. Flynn turning on any of us is pretty unfathomable, the lizard having always been all bark and no bite. Still, seeing one of my old friends brandishing a weapon, it's a weird feeling. I pop into one of the rooms along the main hall that still has the lights on. It looks like some kind of study, and it's much less cluttered than the rest of the house. There's a small desk beside the door with a laptop and a stack of papers next to it, most of them with Reclamation Bureau letterhead. At a glance, the documents mention things like water tables, hydrology reports, and map revisions for floodplain boundaries. It all sounds like pretty heady stuff. It's odd that Heather's dad lives in such a shitty place despite having such a technical-sounding job. TJ wanders in beside me, staring blearily into the empty room. I reach over, placing a paw on the lynx's shoulder. He flinches a little, but doesn't draw back. You feeling better, Tej? I ask, keeping my voice soft for his sake.
Yeah.
TJ responds, rubbing his arms. His fur looks puffier than usual, most likely the result of him being so on edge.
I know we're looking for Carl, but I hope Heather's okay too.
I withdraw my paw, giving him a sidelong look as I check behind the few pieces of furniture that are in here. Oh? I didn't figure you two were that close. At least, not anymore.
You don't have to be close to someone to be worried about them.
I'm not about to argue with TJ on this one, but the way he speaks makes it sound more like he's reciting something than speaking from the heart. I step back out into the main area. Down the hall, I hear the clatter of falling boxes, followed by a hushed swear from Flynn.
Watch your step. Get off my ass. My adrenaline buzz is wearing off.
You can relax. It doesn't look like anyone's here.
What? That doesn't mean you can fucking relax. It means that Carl is still out there with those crackhead fuckfaces. I'm sure when he's dead, you relax plenty.
Flynn! I can hear the lizard spit, cutting him off.
Fuck you, Leo.
Jenna sighs loudly, interjecting.
Flynn, you know I didn't mean it that way.
The bickering continues as I realize there's still a room at the back end of the hall with the lights off. I make my way over, stepping into the doorway and peering into the blackness as I fumble around for the light switch. I find myself shielding my eyes from the glare of the unsheeted light hanging from above. For a moment, I thought I saw something move in the corner, though it must have just been the glare. This room reminds me of the foyer, a cluttered mess, with exposed drywall, electrical wiring, and damp spots all over the ceiling. There's a window to my right, and I think I can see Duke's truck parked outside. Duke mentioned something about Heather taking it while we were locked up with Brian. At first I think it's some kind of storage room, but then I noticed the pink couch in the corner with a blanket, pillow, and alarm clock. There are dirty clothes piled up beside it, and judging from all the bras and panties, this must be where Heather sleeps. There's even a little closet in the corner with crayon children's drawings plastered over the door. I take a step in, though I stop when something catches my eye. In the right-hand corner of the room, where I thought I saw something move earlier, a little green light blinks in the shadows. As I approach, I notice something. A pastel pink baby monitor thing with a photograph taped above it. The picture is of what looks like a fennec fox on the outskirts of Echo, staring at... well, I'm not sure. A shooting star? The fox kind of looks like Keith. Weird. I flip over the photo and notice that there is some smudged writing on the back. Whatever it once said is utterly illegible now. I put it back and shift my focus to the monitor beneath it. It appears to be decades old, judging by the worn paint, but it's apparently still functional. For some reason I can't really explain, I pick it up and press the single circular button at the center. It crackles with a low hissing noise, and that's when I realize it's some kind of walkie-talkie. After a few seconds of holding the button, I speak into it. Hello? I nearly jump out of my skin at the groaning noise. Mainly because it isn't coming from the device, it's coming from inside the room. My eyes dart around for the source, eventually finding one of the blankets piled up on the floor behind a table. It starts to move and I quickly back up. Leo, get in here! Heavy footfalls can be heard sprinting down the hall outside, the wolf pushing his way in with wild eyes. What? What's going on? He looks ready to pounce, though is met only by me and a bedraggled-looking ram trying to untangle the comforter from his horns. Ugh. Oh shit! Carl! There's a squeaking noise from the closet, and I notice Carl's unfocused green eyes start to wander in that direction. I look over and see the folding doors are slightly ajar. Were they like that before? That's when I see it. An eye. It peers through the crack, wide and bloodshot. The door is rammed from the inside, knocking it to the side and sending toys and other miscellaneous junk flying. A hanging light bulb flickers in the closet as a figure steps through. I quickly realize it's Heather. She has blood on her legs and a revolver in her grasp. You! Get out! Go the hell away! I quickly throw up my paws. Leo hesitates a moment, then does the same. Hey, girlie, we mean you no harm. We just need... Leo stops talking, and I'm not sure why. That is, until Heather shifts out of the way and I can see more clearly into the flickering closet. Hunched against a wall is what looks like an enormous doll. Upon further inspection, it's not a doll at all. It's a man, and there's a red smear on the wall behind him. I recognize him from the drawing, a portly fellow with circular glasses, each of the lenses shattered by bullet holes. There are just empty sockets where his eyes once were. Atop his head is a little plastic crown, embedded with costume jewelry. Oh shit! Micha walks in the room, quickly recoiling at the sight of Heather and the figure in the closet. Carl huddles back down against the floor, seemingly trying to make himself look small. Jenna also steps in, her arms already raised. Heather brings up the gun and points it at her. Heather, what the fuck are you doing? It's me, Micha. I don't care! You need to go! She brings the revolver up, aiming it unsteadily at the lot of us. We all take a step back, my back now against the wall. Where the hell is Flynn? Did you shoot your dad? Holy fuck, Heather! Micha, stop talking. That's her fucking dad in the closet! I know. I will kill all of you! A shot rings out and I feel something spraying into my face. I quickly reach up, rubbing my cheeks and finding bits of plaster from the wall next to me all over my face and shirt. My blood turns to ice as I realize there's a bullet hole about 6 inches from my head. Leo's eyes bulge and he starts to move, but stops when that revolver is swiveled toward him.
Heather!
Jenna shouts, quickly trying to get her attention.
Heather!
She says her name again, this time more softly now that the wild-eyed feline is looking at her.
We're here looking for Carl. Remember? Like we mentioned during the bonfire?
The cat's chest rises and falls, like she's hyperventilating. It's been that way since she stepped out of the closet. She makes her way over toward the slumped form of Carl, still half covered in his blanket. Then she points the gun down at him.
I'm going to shoot him in his stupid, fat, ugly face unless you leave right now!
She's absolutely screaming, her demands spouted with such a pitch her voice constantly cracks. Tears begin to roll down her already wet cheeks, her eyes puffy. Beneath her, Carl covers his face with a blanket, visibly trembling from a mixture of fear and exhaustion.
Okay, sounds good. We're happy to leave.
Jenna does her best to put on a calm face as she nods to the rest of us.
We'll take Carl with us and we'll be out of your hair. We're planning on leaving town. Leave?
Heather repeats.
I have nowhere else to go! Nowhere! Everything used to be bad, but not terrible like this. Keith barely talks to me anymore. And when he does, he says...
She breathes in shakily.
He says the meanest things. I cover my ears and I can still hear him. Heather, Keith is gone. He can't be speaking to you. I believe what you're hearing is a side effect of the hum.
She looks over at Micha, who gives her a nod.
Duh, stupid! I know that! You think you're so smart? You think you're so much better than we are? I know you do! Jeremy told me!
Jenna opens her mouth to protest, but Heather shrieks, a blubbering of spit coming from her mouth, snot running down her nose. She begins to press her finger closer to the trigger. Carl, get... Jenna places a paw on Leo's chest, trying to hold him back as Heather's chest heaves. She looks like she's dry heaving, trying to throw up an immensely sick feeling within her that will not leave.
I can barely hear anything anymore! The ringing is so loud! It just sounds like him! He won't stop!
Heather flails in the direction of the shadowy figure in the closet. Even though the man in the closet is very much dead, he's propped up in a way that makes it look like he's watching Heather pace around the room. His dark sockets following her while her back is turned. She seems afraid to look at him. The feline closes her eyes for a moment. I can tell Leo is weighing his chances of whether he can tackle her to the ground before she can get a shot off. Before he can move, they open again and she speaks. Her voice still shrill, but quieter.
Everyone thinks I'm stupid, that I'll never do anything but rot away like everyone else. And it has nothing to do with what Duke or Brian or Jeremy or Clint or anyone thinks will fix things. This whole town is so shit! No argument there.
Micha mumbles, wide-eyed.
Micha? And it's not your fault. They're wrong. I don't even really know you.
She points the pistol at me, and it's like my heart crawls up into my throat, my whole body rigid with fear.
This town is evil! And I'm gonna stop it! I'm gonna do something with my life for once, and not be some plaything!
She seems to be speaking directly to Jenna now.
It's what Keith told me all the time before he went away for a while.
Heather stands there, shaking in places of trying to muster the courage to do something. She begins to strafe, getting closer to the closet and bending down to pick up something beside the corpse. It's a bloody folder with a little booklet stapled to the front. I recognize the emblem on the cover, the Reclamation Bureau. Heather's paw covers the front, but I can still make out Otter's Dam Basic Operation Procedures Manual. Outside, there's some movement by Duke's truck. Trying to not draw attention to myself, I glance out the window and spot the familiar pattern of orange and black scales in TJ's tufty fur. There's a glint of something metallic, Flynn's repeater, which is currently sighted towards the hysterical cat. Jenna spots this too, turning so that her back faces the window. She swishes her tail from side to side. With Jenna in the way, Flynn won't try to take a shot, right? The idea of Flynn shooting anyone is just unfathomable in its own right.
Heather, what do you mean? How are you going to fix the town? I'm gonna make it so there is no town.
As Heather turns away, she catches a glimpse of the blood on the folder, then looks back toward the closet. She screams, but she's not staring at the corpse. It's like she's looking above it, at something else at eye level.
Daddy!
She blubbers, before promptly stumbling out of the room in a full sprint, elbow-checking Micha so hard that he gets knocked on his ass. We stand there in silence as Heather's footsteps fade out of earshot. The sound of a car being started can be heard, and as I peer out the window, I can see your father's utility vehicle peering out of the driveway.
Fuck me.
Micha whispers harshly, pushing himself up to his feet. The smell of blood and gun smoke lingers heavy in the air, and I realize my legs feel like gelatin. I nearly collapse back against the wall, trying to catch my breath. As desensitized as I'd been feeling, the fear was still very real in that moment. Everyone all right? Leo is asking in my direction, though he gives a little look toward Micha. Yeah.
Peachy.
Micha promptly walks toward the closet door and slams it shut.
I don't want to look at that anymore.
There are no objections to that. Jenna walks over toward the blanket Carl is hiding under. Gingerly, she pulls it off him, exposing the rough-looking ram underneath. He flinches at first, but the next thing I know, Jenna's pulling him in for a tight hug. Carl's own massive arms envelop her, the two embracing long enough for Flynn and TJ to finally arrive.
Carl!
TJ gasps. Flynn, meanwhile, stops dead in his tracks in the doorway, looking a little shaky upon his feet. Jenna pulls back, wiping her eyes with the back of her forearm in such a quick movement I don't think anyone but me noticed. Carl himself can't stop shivering, as if the room is freezing. He's still visibly disoriented, mind racing as all these familiar faces appear in front of him.
Carl, you big cloven idiot. Oh my fucking god.
Flynn drops his rifle, stepping up and resting a large hand on his shoulder. Dude, he mumbles, a rasp of disbelief. I'm gonna go get him some water. Hey, Micha, come with me and look for some food. Something that'll go down easy, yeah? The bat nods, not as interested in this tender reunion as the rest of the gang. They head out toward the kitchen.
He's hurt.
Flynn points to the raw, inflamed-looking skin around his neck, as well as the various cuts and bruises that appear elsewhere on his body.
It looks pretty surface level, but we definitely should get him to a doctor in Peyton.
We're free? Carl asks, looking up at me. Looks like it. I respond casually, approaching him and giving him a big hug of my own. He's so warm, and a shaky breath against my neck actually feels pretty good. TJ joins in as well, sobbing into Carl's fur and muttering things I can't quite make out. Hey, you two! Carl eases his grip some on me, peering up at the tall lizard layering over him.
What?
You heard me. Flynn frowns, but ultimately relents and crouches down, giving his friend a stiff hug. Carl, meanwhile, clings to him like his life depends on it, evoking a few irks and grunts from the scaly one. Despite the pained noises, I catch a glimpse of Flynn's face. He's smiling, and more broadly than I've ever seen in a long time. Carl scoops up another spoonful of tapioca pudding, the remnants of the other emptied cups he'd gone through sitting on the counter next to him. I've only managed to get halfway through mine, it feeling pretty messed up to be eating a dead guy's food. In my free hand, I'm fidgeting with the pink walkie-talkie thing from Heather's room. I'm not entirely sure why I picked it up, and when Leo gives me a look, I shove it back into my pocket. Carl vomited after we got into the kitchen. Twice. So, I guess it's good that at least he is doing a little better. He'd cried for 15 minutes straight while our wounds were tended to. TJ seems to have mainly snapped out of whatever funk he was in earlier, beyond an occasional strange look toward Flynn. His knowledge of sports medicine actually came in handy with patching everyone up with what we could find on hand. Fortunately, Heather's dad was not short on painkillers.
Don't give me any of that fentanyl shit.
Are you sure? Those cuts look pretty painful, and it'll be a long ride back to Peyton. TJ inspects the prescription bottle. Curiously enough, the pharmacy label has Brian's name on it.
I've lost too many friends in Pueblo to the stuff.
You went to Pueblo? Jenna chimes in from across the hall, watching out the kitchen window.
Well, I wasn't exactly enrolled at the PU. I bummed around the outskirts.
I'm surprised you never ran into any of us there.
We most likely didn't frequent the same spots, unless you really like tattoo parlors and ska.
I love ska!
Shut up, Toby.
It's TJ now.
Alright, I gassed up my truck with a few of the gas cans laying out by the carport. It's got a full tank, so we don't gotta risk stopping at the gas station by the Flint turnoff. We load up, gun it, and we should be in Peyton just before daybreak.
Sounds like a good plan. Does it? I clutched my forehead, the voice from earlier ringing between my ears. After everything had settled down, I honestly hadn't expected to hear it again.
Any sign of Heather?
No. Last I saw, she was heading northbound on the 65. She frowns in thought.
North?
Fucking beats me. There's not much going on to the north. There's no real exit back to the main interstate system. Just the old military area, lots of country roads that lead nowhere, and the dam. The dam. Oh, fuck. All eyes shift to me. She's heading toward the dam. Her dad works there. Worked there. No one has opened the door to the closet since Micha shut it.
And?
Flynn grunts, dangling his repeater from his fingertips. She took that folder with her when she left. The one about the dam operating procedures. Really?
I didn't get a clear look at what she was holding.
Yeah, I'm telling the truth here.
I believe you.
Flynn squints his eyes some.
Are you saying Heather was going to fuck with the dam?
I mean, what else could she be doing? We all heard her speech, right? Yeah, she was screaming it.
That bitch can barely operate a doorknob. You think she can figure out how to open a floodgate of that size?
Micha pulls out a beer from the fridge, sipping on it gingerly before speaking.
I'm pretty sure I remember her dad brought her up there to work a lot when we were growing up. She hated it.
He disappears back into the kitchen. For someone who's experienced the things we had this evening, he seems oddly composed. It makes me wonder what kind of shit he's seen before all this. I think back to some of my preliminary research I did for my project. And by preliminary research, I mean looking at the county website's historical section for 30 minutes. One of the things that jumped out to me was how big Lake Emma used to be, over twice the size it is now. Most of the lakes in this part of the state are man-made, but this one is natural, ancient. The settlers just shrunk it down, siphoning away water for the iceberg lettuce and cotton fields to the east, past the mountains. Alright, let's load up, everyone. Leo changes the topic, him and Flynn heading to the door.
Wait.
Jenna steps over beside me, seemingly in deep thought before regarding everyone else.
So, we know what Heather's plan is. And you all still intend to leave?
Yes. Leo responds promptly.
No way she can manage what she's planning. We gotta get Carl and the rest of you lots some medical attention. You sure about that? She's got her dad's keys, the codes, the guidebook, and presumably she's got a pretty keen knowledge on how all this shit works already. I mean, shit, I want to get out of here, but the poor fuckers who are still here better know how to swim.
You think Echo would flood? Micha shrugs. Jenna presses her fingertips to her forehead, exhaling.
I truly hate to say it, but we should go after her.
What?
No way. Absolutely the fuck not. There ain't no goddamn way you're making me drive the opposite direction of ending this whole nightmare of an evening.
Jenna turns, giving him a look.
Fuck you.
Jenna smiles tiredly up at the big Gila.
I knew you had some common sense in there somewhere, and maybe even a heart. I get stuck here because I'm the only fucker who knows how to shoot, and someone needs to watch your asses.
He pauses.
Also, I just know my aunt would kill me if I let this shit go down.
Her being the mayor and all?
Yeah. Since when did you suddenly start giving a shit about Echo Townies?
The question is clearly directed at Jenna, the lizard grunting in her direction. Jenna shifts in her seat, having to straddle in between Flynn. His truck isn't very big, and none of us particularly wanted to ride in the back. Besides TJ, of course, who always seemed to enjoy being in the truck bed. Fortunately, I managed to call shotgun. Which may not have been the wisest of things to shout when everyone was on edge, but too late now.
I don't know,
she says, all matter-of-factly. This evokes a raised brow from the lizard.
I just thought about myself, leaving everything behind like that, knowing what might happen. And I didn't want to be that person.
Flynn blinks, wondering if this is truly Jenna he's talking to right now.
Fuck, college does make you a bleeding heart, doesn't it? Leo wasn't kidding.
He sighs, the highway stretching out in front of us for miles and miles. Jenna turns to me, giving me an appraising look before speaking.
Thank you for coming, Chase. I know you didn't have to, but it means a lot.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Every inch of my body longs to be heading homeward, driving back to Peyton, to freedom. And here I am. At least Jenna's here. Despite everything that's happened. Brian's attack, the hallucinations, the kidnapping, the haunted van, the voice in my head, Heather's house, and the town going nuts. Everyone is silent as our headlights shine down the long stretch of Route 65 ahead. Maybe we're just exhausted. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. I exhale and rest my forehead against the cool window, watching the town's lights blur past. Soon, the lights stop and are replaced by darkness, shadows of shapes barely visible through the condensation-tinged glass. We never go this way. No one does. We're getting close to Echo Canyon. The bumps and hills of Echo being replaced by vast open desert, contrasted by the sheer cliff face of the western mesa. There's not much out here but land owned by the feds, most notably the dam and the old proving grounds. I remember there used to be a checkpoint booth up ahead, but it hasn't been manned in decades. It's here you can see the lake most clearly. All of it. It seems smaller than I remember. Yet, there's still that tightness in my gut, and the urge to look away. So I do. I keep my eyes fixed on the space between my feet, Flynn's camouflage patterned floor mat oddly captivating. It's then I notice a blinking green light shining through my left pocket. Instinctively, I think it's my phone and reach for it, but then I remember as I pull it out. It's the pink, walkie-talkie baby monitor thing from earlier. I rub my thumb over the surface of it, feeling the worn, chipped plastic. It looks like there might even be little teeth marks on the side, like a small child gnawed on it at some point. I remember being like that, thinking everything colorful must be some edible dessert, waiting to be bitten into. I press my thumb against what I think is the talk button, but any labels on this have long worn off. Bringing the device up a little, I open my mouth as if to speak, but stop short of actually saying anything. I realize I don't want to freak the others out right now. Seeing the lake again, I look back down.
Hello, good sir.
I freeze. Hello? Flynn looks over at me. Jenna stares ahead.
Hello, good sir.
That same voice, crackling and old, spoken in the same cadence as before. I glance over, and Flynn's gone back to focusing on driving, with Jenna still looking at the road blankly. No one's reacting to this thing going off.
Hello, good sir.
Is there a voice really coming from this old toy? I stare at the flashing green lights and am reminded of the van from earlier. That voice felt much more vivid, alive, real sound. This one is like I'm remembering a sound, but I've never heard this voice before.
And how are you?
Huh?
And how are you?
It repeats. It's distorted, but it sounds like a woman's voice. I've been better, that's for sure.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh. I guess I can read my thoughts? That's comforting.
Things will get better soon.
I start to consider sliding the walkie back into my pocket. Nothing this thing is saying can be doing me any good right now. Especially noting that I'm the only one hearing it. Just more hallucinations. crazy swamp gas, tulpa bullshit. It doesn't seem to be saying anything now. The minutes pass and I begin to relax some. I look past the device in my paw. The night sky reflected upon the surface of the lake. A streak of white light where the moon is. Not your fault. The voice comes through a little clearer. What do you mean? Not your fault. Intentions pure. The words start coming out even choppier, as if hastily clipped from an audio file. It was a loving act, and one cannot fault themselves for a loving act. What are you talking about? I wish we could talk more, but you have places to be. Places to be. The road begins taking us into the canyon proper, and the light on the walkie flicks off. I've never actually been here before, I mutter.
Fascinating. Now keep your fucking voice down. I see your car up by the service building.
The building itself isn't too large, only about 500 square feet, with windows on all sides. We creep forward, Flynn with rifle and grasp. Micha, Carl, TJ, and Leo were hunkered down behind the truck, out of the line of fire. Leo had been pretty insistent on going with us to approach, but both Jenna and Micha agreed that would probably be a bad idea. Unsurprisingly, we're the only vehicles parked out here. All right, Jenna whispers, wiggling her paws out on either side of her, as if to shake the nerves out. I'm going to announce myself and approach. Flynn, please just keep line of sight. Maybe she won't be as crazy out here? You know, on account of it being, less hummy or whatever? Flynn looks utterly goddamn perplexed at whatever I'm talking about. Honestly, I don't fully understand it myself, but the effects were pretty damn evident earlier. Well, that's a theory. It's all Jenna says, giving my waist a gentle pat, to which I frown.
Okay, I need to set up.
Flynn eyes an outcropping along the side of the canyon edge next to us, pointing to it. The slope isn't too steep to climb, and the bushes and rocks act as natural cover for a vantage point.
I'll be up there. If you need me to shoot, just make the Charlie horse symbol behind your back or something.
The Charlie horse symbol? I ask. Flynn rolls his eyes, then moves his hand down to his thigh and makes the OK gesture with his fingers, but turned upside down. I recognize it instantly, moments before Flynn strikes my thigh with his knuckles. Ah! Jenna quickly shoves her paw over my muzzle, shooting a glare at Flynn. Flynn! Unacceptable! Flynn appears unapologetic, checking the lever on his repeater.
Okay, I'm heading up.
Jenna lets out a little puff of air, her tail still behind her. Flynn turns, glancing back at her.
I got your back.
She gives the Gila a grateful nod. Thank you, Flynn. There's a pause, and she speaks again. I'm glad you've cooled down since your outburst at the river. I know how much you wanted to talk. There's a strange timing to Jenna's words, a finality to them. As if she's getting words unsaid out in the open before facing the danger that awaits us. I think Flynn recognizes this, and he stops.
Sid's dead. You two ain't yet. Let's keep it that way.
Jenna and I stand there for a moment. Wow, I mutter. I can tell it's an oversimplification of Flynn's feelings on the matter, but right now, that particular spat can wait. The others are starting to peek their heads out from behind the truck, wondering what we're doing. Not too late to back out, you know? Come on, Chase. Of course, I do appreciate the sentiment. I could always just take Carl's advice, though. He spoke to you? He was zonked out on the truck bed last I saw. She nods, lowering herself to a crouched position. I do the same, with a grimace. He mumbled, suplexer. I let out an amused exhale through my nose, untangling my tail from a bush I'm pushing through. Oh, Carl. Good to have him back. As we approach, I can see the front door to the service building is open, light spewing out from the inside. We're far enough away that a truck isn't really visible. We prop ourselves up on either side of the door. Sniffling and distraught mumbling can be heard from inside, including the rapid flipping of pages and clicking noises from a computer terminal. Hey, Heather? The noises stop. Oh boy. Jenna looks over at me, lowering her voice. Chase, you may want to get back. What? No, I'm not leaving you.
Jenna? You followed me?
Here we go again. Jenna comes out from her cover and I peek in as well. Inside, a computer with a bunch of monitors hooked up on the wall is turned on. One of those monitors has a window open called floodgate control. Maybe she knew what she was doing after all?
Chase?
I grimace, trying to quickly shift it into a smile. Hi! I can practically feel the cringe from Jenna beside me. I don't know why I said hello like that. Long night. I clear my throat. We wanted to make sure you were okay, and maybe see if you wanted to maybe reconsider your course of action? Heather reaches over toward the desk, and next thing I know she has her pistol trained on us. We quickly duck back behind the wall.
You two can't stop me! I know this is what I have to do. I saw the future in, like, a dream? A waking dream. Everything worked out. Everything was underwater. There was peace. This has to be done. It has to be done.
Her eyes flick to the murky, black water at the foot of the dam.
There was quiet. It was a dream. But it wasn't a dream. You know what I mean?
Jenna watches Heather, keeping close appraisal of her twitchy hand upon that revolver.
Yeah, I do.
Jenna responds flatly. I think we all do at this point. At least somewhat. I can see Flynn up on the rock ledge, moonlight glinting off the metal barrel of his repeater. He's looking at us with a curious expression.
Then you understand? You don't, do you?
The question must have been rhetorical, because she answers it before we can.
I knew it! I should have stopped you when you broke into my house. You're bad, just like the rest of them.
She raises the gun. There's the pitter-patter of small feet behind me, and next thing I know, Micha's right at my side. One of his paws is on the small of my back, the other outstretched in front of us.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait a second!
Heather's tear-filled eyes shift to the bat.
You again? God, why are you all here?
Hear me the fuck out.
No! You hear me out, idiot! Keith was like an umbrella. All the bad stuff just bounced off when he was around. After Keith left, everything went to crap and you know it! Everyone started getting weird or leaving. You left, so you never saw how it got bad. You didn't have to watch it happen. We were all such good friends, and it's like I'm watching everyone dying. I feel like I'm dying, Micha. Everything hurts, and I can't think well anymore. And Daddy...
She takes in a sharp inhale in between her fangs, sputtering a bubble of spit before catching her breath.
I just need to make it all go away. Then everything will be fine. I'm gonna move somewhere happy.
You can move and be happy right the fuck now. Nothing is stopping you.
Micha spits back.
This is just the hum talking. You and I both know how this shit goes. It'll pass and you'll feel better. We'll all feel better.
No!
She screams, and Micha quickly ducks behind the edge of the doorway as she brings up her revolver. I do the same, though for a second, I think I see a flash of color behind her that wasn't there before. I peek past the edge of the concrete wall long enough to realize what it is. Jenna sees it too. That same tall, burned figure from Brian's trailer. It looms in the back of the room, staring at us, waiting. It's almost like a statue, unmoving beyond little twitches where it suddenly shifted in position. It's unstable, or at least that's the best way I can describe it. Jenna,
I see it.
Heather's ranting about something, but I can't really focus. It's getting closer, another foot nearer to Heather.
What the shit?
Jenna steps out from behind the wall suddenly, holding up the palms of her paws.
Wait!
Astonishingly, both Heather and the thing stop. Though, it's still very much there, looming in the background. It's as if the world itself is distorting around it. 3 holes pierce its face where the eyes and mouth should be. I look back up toward where Flynn is at. He definitely should be able to see this thing, and I half expect a shot to ring out at any moment. When I glance back, the thing isn't looking at Heather anymore. Its dark holes are aimed toward the hill outside the door, where Flynn is. Heather stands wide-stanced, her finger an inch from the trigger.
Heather, when I was growing up, I was very fortunate. It's not something I truly realized until relatively recently. Despite my circumstances at home, I truly had some incredible people and other things
Jenna's eyes briefly flick up to the figure.
looking out for me.
The figure's head tilts ever so slightly.
Brian is dead. Your father, he's certainly fucking dead.
There's some zeal to Jenna's words, and it becomes rather evident she thinks this is a good thing.
And they can't hurt you anymore.
A thick tear streaks down Heather's cheek as Jenna takes a step closer, pointing outside to the south.
Back in town, there are still people who genuinely care about you. The ones who have stuck with you throughout all this. Jeremy, he's a complete turd, and I'd give him a piece of my mind if I saw him. But he genuinely likes you. Same with Clint. But Clint talks about all the things we used to do to you guys growing up. All the things that were said. Why are you saying they're good? What we do as children does not have to define us as adults. Heather, I don't honestly believe you want to hurt your friends.
Heather shudders, hugging herself. I'd honestly be tempted to rush her for the gun if that thing weren't still standing behind her, watching Jenna speak. Heather sobs, her thin wrists trembling, as if the weight of the pistol in her paws had burdened her for too long. Finally, they droop, the gun limply hitting the floor. I flinch, though thankfully it doesn't go off. The red entity lingers so close to Heather, it's practically touching her. Then, it's as if a great, silent wind sucks it backward, its body contorting to the pull, a strip of its flesh disappearing in the void. And then it vanishes, fading into nothing. I rub my eyes. It's gone. I can hear Jenna shudder beside me, before stepping up and taking the guide and keys and tossing them promptly into the water below. Micha picks up the gun, flicking open the chamber and spinning it with his thumb.
Out of bullets. Fucking hell.
Flynn skids down the hill, nearly tripping as he hustles over.
You mad fucking tit-dirts actually did it!
Micha and Jenna are staring at the spot where the monster was moments ago. Flynn, despite having us in his sights the whole time, seems oblivious.
You should get the key to the city or some shit. Though, that probably only unlocks an outhouse or something.
Micha walks past him, letting out a string of unintelligible expletives and shaking his head. The sun begins to rise past the mountains to the east, the sky starting to become illuminated with purple and amber hues. In the distance, you can just barely make out one of the Mormon settlements down the river, on the edge of the reservation. I rest my head against the side of the truck, mentally exhausted beyond words. I try to think of the entity, but it's like trying to remember a dream. A fading horror that seems so real at the time, but surely couldn't be. There's a soft thud beside me, and I soon realize it's Leo's butt, the wolf holding his concussed head in both paws as he rests beside me. Ugh. About ready to head out, Otter? TJ and Carl approach, the ram shivering and the lynx gently rubbing his back.
Oh, we're going?
He helps the ram up into the back. I mean, in a bit, I guess? Jenna and Micha are talking to Heather. Flynn wanders over, throwing the rifle in the back before leaning his rump against the tire. In the past, when shit got tough, the lizard would always run off to deal with things on his own terms. Yet here he is, slumped and exhausted like the rest of us. Finally, Jenna joins us. I give her a little thumbs up as I pass. She returns the gesture before sitting down as well. She props her chin up in her paws, her fluffy tail perked up to avoid getting smushed in the dirt. We sit in relative silence, beyond the faint sound of crickets and gently lapping water.
You know, I'm gonna miss this place.
Jenna glances over, frowning some.
You know I was joking, right? I expected some laughter there.
I think you're plenty funny, Jenna. I respond, tiredly. Micha, seemingly out of nowhere, comes up and props his elbow on the hood.
Shut up, Chase. Now, are we fucking off or what?
I dab my napkin in TJ's glass of water, wiping off the sticky syrup stain on my seat before sitting down. The lynx gives me a little look before taking a sip from his glass.
Ah, about time. Here they come.
Flynn's peering out the window toward the sheriff's office across the street. Sure enough, our trio of friends exit through the glass double doors, checking for traffic before crossing over to us. A few reporters from the parking lot spot them and try to get their attention, but Leo ushers them forward. He mutters something and Michael laughs, glancing over his shoulder. Jenna just shakes her head, clearly annoyed but relieved nonetheless. A few more squad cars roll out, honking at the news vans to get out of the way before heading down in the direction of Echo.
The police were sure busy in there.
Yeah, and no wonder. They're all gonna be in deep shit for their lack of response to all this. What was it? 14 hours before they even sent out a squad car to investigate the blackout?
Well, the detective I talked to claimed they sent them out earlier, but there was some kind of traffic trouble. They couldn't get to us.
Oh yeah, traffic trouble. That sure is a fucking valid excuse to ignore a whole town suddenly losing its internet and telephone communications.
Flynn grunts, the Gila looking over toward the quiet ram at his side. He's still wearing his dirty tank top, though the EMTs bandaged up the cuts on his arms in fetlocks. Fortunately, Leo's dad called and said that he's going to pick up a fresh pair of clothes for him. He also stated that Leo, Flynn, and Carl could stay over at their house while the authorities sort everything out. Since they closed off the Flint Road access to Echo, no one can exactly go back for their stuff. Not that we're in any rush to go back, of course. The ram stares at the checkerboard patterned tabletop, saying nothing. Flynn frowns, nudging the ram with his shoulder.
Hey, fat ass, why don't you take a look at the menu? I bet some chocolate chip waffles and ice cream sounds good right about now, eh?
The lizard smiles down at him as he slides over a menu. Carl looks up for a moment, then sluggishly flips it open.
I think they serve a parent's brand of ice cream here.
TJ forces a smile, which is a strange sight in and of itself. A happy face usually comes so naturally to the lynx, but now he just looks frazzled. Understandable, really. Something cold sounds good right about now.
Fuck yeah, I bet.
The ram flips to the next page, though I can see he's not really reading anything. His face starts to scrunch and he exhales through flared nostrils. He scrunches again, and soon his gaze falters, his arms beginning to shake. His eyes press shut and he lets out a nearly inaudible sob, tears rolling down his cheeks. Flynn reaches over and puts an arm around him, tugging him close.
Shh, it's okay.
He squeezes the ram's shoulder. Carl sniffs, hiccuping once before letting his muzzle push into Flynn's chest. TJ looks away, his own eyes beginning to water again.
I'm gonna order you the banana split and a big glass of lemonade.
He pauses.
Also a salad, for your health and shit.
The lynx begins to quietly cry, though he keeps his face hidden by a napkin. We must be making quite the scene for the other folks in here, but I rightly don't give too much of a damn. However, this is all making me realize that I sure could go for a hug right about now. Flynn, still holding the traumatized ram, looks at me across the booth with a soft frown. As the two non-weeping members of our group here, I guess there's some solidarity in that. Not that I feel particularly great or anything. I certainly feel a lot less numb than I did in Echo, though. Thinking about all that happened really freaks me out, so I've just been trying not to. At least right now.
Chase.
Yeah?
Thanks.
His tone of voice is so strange and sincere, I can't hide my look of surprise. No problem. Though, I think we owe the most to Jenna and Micha.
Yeah, I already talked to them at the station. Never would have thought that little shithead bat would ever do anything that didn't serve himself.
Yeah, he's pretty cool, I guess. I kinda think you would get along with him. Flynn lets out a little grunt, running a hand up and down along the ram's arm.
Wouldn't push it that far. I guess we'll never know, 'cause I'm moving the fuck out, quick like. My house is probably worth jack shit now, even less than it was before. But I'll worry about money later.
TJ wipes his eyes, clearing his throat.
Maybe you could start one of those online fundraiser things, since this is getting so much attention on the news. I'm sure there are plenty of people, like the folks at my church, who would be happy to donate to help get you on your feet.
Take charity from strangers?
Flynn looks out toward the news vans outside. A particularly antsy-looking newswoman is currently getting chewed out by a police officer in SWAT gear. Though, it looks like the news lady is grilling him right back, shoving a microphone in his face. To think that's what I want to be one day. A guy with a camera, chasing tragedies for profit. Maybe I should change my major. I glance back toward Flynn and Carl, the ram still visibly crying, but no longer racked by quaking sobs. For some reason, I smile, if only for a moment. Or you could just marry the wealthy heir you helped save from abduction a couple hours ago. I'm sure that comes with some financial stability. TJ immediately stops crying, blinking at me, then Flynn across the table. Flynn's eyes go wide, before he quickly furrows his brow.
Fuck you, Chase.
Despite everything, if the lizard can blush, I have a feeling he'd be doing so right now. Carl does seem to hug onto him a little tighter. The bells on the front door jingle as they're pushed open, and I can see Leo peeking in, searching for us. Once he spots our booth, he gestures in our direction toward the others, and they make their way over.
I swear, those fucking useless pigs are gonna keep me locked in there indefinitely till you vouch for me. Just cause they can't do their fucking job, they gotta find someone to pin all this bullshit on. Why not the kid with the record?
They're still trying to figure out what exactly happened.
And they won't. Because it ain't the sort of thing that can be figured, you know?
Oh yes, I know that now.
Jenna closes her eyes for a moment, though they open again as she startles from Leo coming up behind her. He's about to speak when a particularly rotund alligator woman saunters up beside me. She's wearing a white polo shirt, jeans, and a blue pancake house apron. Why, hello there! You all got enough room there in the booth? She smiles, seemingly unfazed by the sorry state we all look to be in. I suppose when you work at a 24/7 diner in the middle of the desert, you see some oddball customers. TJ blinks, then mutters an apology as he scoots himself over, closer to Flynn. I do the same, and Jenna moves to sit beside me. Micha and Leo take the opposite side. We're in a long corner booth that actually has several mini-tables, but with all of us together, we're shoulder to shoulder in here. We each tell the waitress what we want in no particular order. Micha practically blurts out what he wants.
2 hash browns, 6 house-style waffles, toast with strawberry jam, and a side of bacon.
Meanwhile, I ask for a large iced tea with a bowl of vanilla ice cream. Jenna insists I get something healthy in my stomach, so she offers to split her turkey sandwich. I smile at her and accept, relaxing against the pleather backing of the booth seat. Our server finally gets to Flynn and Carl, and both of them don't seem to be too focused on what she's saying. Flynn is staring at his phone, and Carl is leaning into him with a distant look in his eyes. TJ gingerly nudges the Gila, and Flynn quickly looks up at the alligator.
Oh, a banana split and a garden salad, please, with 2 lemonades.
Pink.
What?
Pink lemonade. Flynn looks at Carl like his last shred of masculinity can't possibly bear to utter those words aloud. Fortunately, the waitress writes down Carl's correction with that same unjudging smile.
2 pink lemonades.
Ugh. Alright, if that's all, I'll be back with you folks in a bit. Carl lowers his noggin back into Flynn, while the Gila goes back to staring at his phone.
I can't get a hold of my aunt. Mayor aunt? Yes, my aunt who's the mayor.
Maybe she's tied up with the police, sorting stuff out? I offer reassuringly, picking up a sugar packer from the table and emptying it in my mouth like an absolute cretin.
Yeah, but you'd think she'd call me back.
Leo raises an eyebrow at me from across the table, taking a sugar packet for himself. Hey, Otter. You should have heard Carl's dad falling over himself thanking Jenna over the phone. All the cops in there were calling her a hero, yeah?
Oh, quiet you.
Hey, I'm sure I could have been just as smooth if I was the one up for talking Heather down.
I look at Micha and can't tell if he's being serious or not. Whatever you say, little buddy. The wolf downs a sugar packet, smirking some. He and I used to swipe these from the diner all the time. Creamers, too. He'd always go for the aspartame or stevia-based ones, though. I can see Jenna giving us a curious glance, before refocusing her attention on me.
Anyway, the police are pretty happy with you, too.
It takes me a second to realize what she's referring to, and I quickly wave a dismissive paw. Well, I'm sure I just gave them more work.
That is their job, Chase.
TJ, who's been relatively silent next to me, looks increasingly perplexed, his ears folded downward. With everything going on, I realized I hadn't told the rest of the gang about my discovery. For those not present, I found an old corpse on the side of the road, from like the 70s. This gets Carl, Flynn, and TJ's attention.
Found is putting it mildly. You picked a patch of dirt and started digging until you found the guy's body and wallet. What?
I hold up my paws, shaking my head.
I can't explain it.
I can't explain a lot of things. The fact the body is so old, though, means I'm not a suspect, at least. A weirdly sour feeling courses through my body, and I instinctively squeeze my tail beneath the table. But they ran the guy's name through the system. His disappearance was so long ago, they don't even have a record of it anymore. They did find living family, though, or at least a point of contact from what I heard. Jenna smiles.
I'm sure whoever they are, they'll be grateful for what you did.
After 4 decades? I'm not so sure. Maybe it will just dig up old wounds, raising more questions than answers. It's not like I told the police my dream about the van or anything, or who the original owner was. To think, Sydney's dad killed a guy. No wonder he ended up the way he did. There's a moment of silence, Micha staring impatiently at the kitchen and Flynn dialing up his aunt again. Jenna exhales, breaking the quiet.
Regardless, I'm just glad you are all okay. Micah's fingers and neck are healing up nicely and you two are finally separated.
Jenna nods toward Leo and I. There's no way in hell that phrasing wasn't intentional. She has this self-confident smile on her face, though when neither of us respond, it diminishes. Leo just looks kind of distant. Not like before, of course, when he was all loopy post-beatdown, but like he's got a lot on his mind he hasn't really processed yet. I know exactly how he feels.
Dick?
Micha muses, idly tearing strips of his napkin off. Huh?
Dick. That was a dick thing to say.
Well, that's pretty rich coming from you. Micha's about to say something when Jenna cuts him off, speaking first.
No, he's right.
She brings her fingers to her temple for a moment, thinking, before focusing on Leo and I, making sure to meet our gaze.
Acting like we're all still in high school, teasing you two about your relationship, it's not appropriate. And, ultimately, it's driven by jealousy.
Leo blinks. Jenna?
It's not something I like to admit, but a lot of what I do is driven by that. The need to experience things I wasn't afforded growing up.
Micha looks up from his napkin evisceration, the edges of his mouth curled into a soft frown. Flynn glances over as well.
A prank I orchestrated over 3 years ago led to this whole situation. Picking at a raw nerve and leaving it to fester.
My mind flashes to images of my smashed cell phone sitting on the pavement. Leo calling for me as I walk away.
Do I think you two should be together? No. But is that any of my goddamn business? Also no. And for that, I apologize.
Wow.
Flynn speaks my mind.
We should go through more tragedies if it gets you to admit you're just as shitty as us for a change.
Flynn grunts. Jenna waves off Flynn's comment.
But seriously, Leo, don't hump Chase at a children's arcade and then destroy it when you get caught.
You smashed up an arcade?
I did. You know, I'm, kind of a rebel. A real badass. Leo clicks his tongue against the roof of his mouth, letting a moment of silence pass as he glances offward. Nah, I'm the fucking idiot. Leo seems to be purposefully avoiding Jenna and I's gaze.
Hey, people did worse things under the effects of the hum.
Manifesting a tulpa of one's ex-boyfriend. It's a bit much, no? Ex-boyfriend. I suppose that settles it, though I can feel how much it hurt for him to say that. He smiles regardless, of course.
Well, if the tulpa is giving good head, there's not much to complain about. Seriously, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
I can't help but chuckle, and a few others do too, including Leo. To describe any of this in any sort of way that does it justice seems utterly untenable. Look, I reckon it's best if we put some time and a few beers in between this event and us before getting into the nitty-gritty details, yeah? Oh, planning another Echo meetup already? I ask, trying to sound more lighthearted than I feel. Fuck no, Otter. We've got the internet if we want to talk.
My inbox is always open, though I think therapy might be the safer bet than beers.
I could get you some harder stuff.
Jenna sighs.
Like?
She seems to regret the question the moment she says it.
You ever had a foot-tall devil dog cake with strawberry, cherry, and raspberry filling? I know a place off of Santa Rita and Busby in Pueblo. It would take your mind off anything. I also can get you some heroin.
Micah, for God's sake.
I'm just kidding. Christ. The cake place closed years ago.
We talk for a few more minutes, mainly riffing on what the hell we're all going to do after all this. The food arrives before Jenna and I really get a chance to weigh in, though. Not that I'm complaining, of course. The vanilla ice cream looks delicious. And Jenna's sandwich she offered to split doesn't look too bad either. She sets it gingerly on my plate. Flynn glares at his pink lemonade as if it had just insulted him.
Fucking hell.
He glances over to Carl, who seems to be working up the energy to sit upright enough to eat his food.
This looks like your piss after too many energy drinks.
There was once. Carl speaks up in a sniffly voice. The lizard looks like he's about to take a tentative drink right when his phone goes off. He quickly snatches it up.
Hello? Mark.
He leans forward, resting his elbows on the tabletop.
Yeah, hi. I left a message earlier. Have you heard anything from my aunt?
He frowns suddenly.
Okay. Why? Alright.
The lizard takes Carl by the shoulders and straightens him out, the bleary-eyed ram blinking some as Flynn tries to stand and scoot past him.
I'll be right back.
Flynn, after accidentally hip-bumping Micha in the face a half-dozen times, manages to exit the booth. He heads out toward the parking lot. Ordinarily, I get the impression this would annoy the shit out of the bat, but he's too excited for his plate of food to complain. He dives into the bacon first, shoving it on his mouth as a whole wad. Even Leo raises his eyebrows a bit. Don't choke. I think Micha mumbles an expletive at him. The hungry guy is already moving on to his jam and toast by the time I bite into my sandwich. We eat in silence for the most part, though it's not exactly awkward. I think we're just mainly content to have each other's company after everything we've been through. I can't fathom being alone with my thoughts after all this. Though in the quiet, I do get to thinking about that voice that spoke to me by the van. It seems like a distant memory now, but it was so clear. We've been together for some time. I'm with you. You are indecisive by nature. I choose. Those words stick out to me the most. Glancing around at my friends, I decide to try something. I let the ambient noise of the diner fade out, focusing on trying to remember that voice, the one I've heard before. I close my eyes, emptying my mind of worries and other thoughts. I wait. Jenna nudges my shoulder, a french fry poking out of the corner of her mouth.
You falling asleep on me, Chase?
I refocus, managing a reassuring smile. Oh, no, I'm just, taking a moment.
Oh.
She nods, as if this made perfect sense, no clarification needed.
You holding up alright, though?
You know, I think I'm okay, actually.
Really?
Her tone is skeptical, though in a sort of jokey way. Yeah, really. She finishes the rest of her fries, wiping her paws off with a napkin before something catches her attention across the room.
Oh, would you look at that? A jukebox.
I follow her gaze, spotting it by the door to the bathroom. It's pretty retro. It even has those plastic, neon-filled tubes that flash when it's turned on. You don't see many of those these days, or jukeboxes in general. I think maybe most folks saw them as more of a nuisance than a mood setter.
Come on, let's take a look.
Okay. I'm not sure why this is so interesting to her. After scooting out, she offers me her shoulder, her tail swishing gently behind her. I offer her a little nod of thanks, using it to help myself stand. Leo looks up at me from his plate of chicken and waffles. We meet each other's gaze for a few seconds, and he smiles.
Alright, easy now.
The EMTs already gave my leg a proper dressing after we got to the police station. Hell, they tried to get Leo and I to go with them to the hospital. Yet, of course, the last thing Leo wanted was for us to all get split up again. I actually agreed with him this time. Plus, I've heard horror stories about ambulance bills. I relinquish my leaning on Jenna and we walk, I hobble, toward the jukebox. The music selection is pretty dated for the most part, though there's some modern dance hits thrown in there, surprisingly enough. They're scribbled on with permanent marker on sticky note labels. Jenna makes a show of inspecting the options, though she speaks up toward me.
Hey.
Hello? She lets out a little laugh, then sighs.
Sorry, I haven't gotten a moment to speak alone with you for some time.
Something on your mind? She nods.
A lot, actually. There's a considerable amount of things we've seen, that we've experienced, that will never make plausible sense to anyone but us.
Jenna gestures discreetly toward the rest of the group at the booth. I notice that Flynn is still not back. It does sort of put everything into perspective, I guess.
Yeah. Part of me wonders whether I made the right decision.
The musing comes as some surprise. Jenna never one to really doubt her choices, or at least make such doubt known. What do you mean?
Well, from what I figured, both from your historical research and what Micha has said, this hysteria is cyclical. It always comes back, and ends up hurting whoever is around it. Now, I don't know whether it's gases seeping through the ground, weird radio signals, or it's something in the water, and I'm not sure anyone ever will. But what Heather wanted to do, flooding the town, that would certainly put a stopper on anyone trying to live there again.
I don't think anyone is going to be wanting to stick around there for a long time after this. Jenna's gaze shifts to the tile floor beneath our feet.
Yeah. For a long time.
She repeats. I try to think of what to say next. In the background, I can hear Micha saying something crude about the origins of syrup. I glance back and see Leo chuckling and TJ covering his face. Carl stares out the window. I don't know if you can really fight forces of nature. Whatever's going on, it feels much bigger than us. But what you can do is help people, I guess? And that counts for something. What you did for Heather, despite everything she did to you, that counts. Second chances and all that. Jenna smiles.
Chase, that's very nice of you to say. Very sappy, of course, but still sweet. I'm not quite sure I can fully see it that way. At least not yet.
Her tail thwacks me a little, and after a brief moment of nearly teetering over, I thwack back. I think we all turned out okay, noting the circumstances. Echo's this tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and the shitty situations brought us together in the end. And I don't regret that. She taps her fingertips against the glass of the jukebox, looking elsewhere.
I wonder what it would be like if Sydney were still here.
The question catches me off guard. As far as I knew, Jenna never really liked the kid back in the day. Still, I guess he was part of our group. Hence the thought, maybe? I don't know. I don't really want to think about it, to be honest.
Maybe he'd have helped Leo beat the shit out of Ryan.
I blink at her, the words sounding strange coming from her mouth. She looks at me, furrowing her brow.
What? He was really into that wrestling stuff.
I cross my arms over my chest. I guess. There's a long silence.
I had a dream about him, early on in the week. And once everything started, hitting the proverbial fan, I remember hearing these strange voices.
She doesn't elaborate on that specific thought further, shifting focus to me.
I didn't make anything of them at the time, but noting everything that happened later.
She stops for a moment.
If you want to talk to me about what happened sometime, just let me know, okay?
I try to read her expression, the offer seemingly sincere. I don't see any sign of judgment or scrutinizing intent to her words. As usual around her, I find myself not quite sure what to say. Whatever happened to you claiming you're not a therapist?
I'm not. I'm your friend. And I wanted to stay that way for a long time.
Despite my wariness at that original question, I can't help but feel a little fuzzy from that statement. Well, I'm happy you're my friend too. I'm gonna hate to see you leave for Weston after this semester.
I've been thinking about that, actually. I might just take the upcoming fall semester off from formal studies.
Really? You've been pretty apt about getting your education done as soon as possible up to this point.
Well, I've got some offers for sabbatical lined up, as well as a part-time internship or two. Nothing that would really hurt my resume. There's still quite a lot you can do with a bachelor's degree.
Is this the same Jenna I've known all these years? Taking it easy? I'm really shocked. I smirk, and she just pats my shoulder affectionately.
Hey, maybe your slacker ways have rubbed off on me.
What? Pfft, what are you talking about? I respond, putting on an indignant tone.
Oh yeah, just spent the 4 months playing video games, catching up on my manga, flirting with hunky boys. You know how it goes.
Hunky boys?
Of course. And, oh yeah, I almost forgot. Now that you survived a couple near-death encounters, when are you going to profess your love for Carl?
Jenna! She laughs over my grumbling.
In the meanwhile, I'm definitely going to start writing about our experiences here in Echo. Specifically our most recent ones. How it augmented the perceptions of people, sometimes even in groups. It's almost downright paranormal.
Almost?
Nothing's actually paranormal. I'm certain there's actual inputs and variables which determine certain triggers that result in what we saw. On a personal note, I'm just happy none of the effects seemed to linger once we left the town. No tulpa version of you hanging around Leo, no monster chasing TJ, no red figure following me, no visions of Keith or Micha or Heather. And you, well, how's that possession by the roadside ghost working out for you?
I rub my head, feeling the welt from Brian's pistol whipping peeking out of my fur. I'm pretty sure he's gone.
Huh. Who says you can't run away from your traumas then?
She winks, and I find myself smiling a little goofily. This is all so insane. But I sure am glad she's here to talk to me through it.
Now, Chase Hunter, the true question.
She turns to face the jukebox.
What should we pick?
You know what? I don't know. How about you choose? Jenna gives me a quick nod.
Whatever you say. Oh, here, this one looks good.
She leans in and presses a button on the machine. Thank you for watching, everybody. I'll see you in the next series.